Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 St. Jude Initial Research Show. I am coming off another fantastic week at the Wyndham Championship. No, I did not have the Cam Young outright, so congratulations if you did. I know a lot of people were on him for the Wyndham. I simply was not. But it was still a very, very fantastic week. Cashed almost 70% of my lineups, headlined by a top 10 performance in a big GPP, more than 100x'd its money. Another great week. Honestly, could have been a whole lot better. I did have the outright on Nico Echeverria, who really imploded on Sunday. So I was really flirting with a humongous week, but still turned out to be a great week, and we're not going to complain about that here. Profitable weeks are still profitable weeks. So I hope you enjoyed some success for the Wyndham. And we are ready for the FedEx Cup playoffs. 69 players in the field for this week's event. We'll get into the one player who decided not to play this week. But would love to hear from you all. I want to hear about any success that you all had. I do have one shout out to give, not golf related, but longtime viewer of the channel, Darnell. Had a really, really big, I believe it was Friday, might have been Thursday, in terms of MLB DFS. So I want to give him his due. Congratulations, Darnell, on your a lot of success on that night that you hit, I believe, 2 or 3 wins on the MLB DFS slate. So congratulations to you. And if you have success, please let me know in chat or in the comments of the show. I would love to be able to shout out other members of the community who have success. So I'm feeling pretty good. It's 5 or 6 straight weeks of very, very high returns of great weeks. I've joked now for a little bit that the rails will fall off. I'm going to pull a Nico eventually and implode. We're going to try and delay that as much as possible, and we're going to get ready for the playoffs. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. You want to be able to find the hidden gems that I suggest week in and week out. You're going to need Fantasy National on your side. So go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I place research regarding past champions of the tournament of the week, some patterns they all share, players in the field who also fit those patterns. Not sure I'm going to be able to do anything for the St. Jude, considering this has only been about a couple of years running now in its current format. And we'll explain that as we go throughout tonight and throughout the week. So I'm not sure I'm going to have much. But if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. If you follow me over at X, you would have seen all of the Nico Echeverria I was playing, all of the Ben Griffin I was playing, all of the Aaron Rye that I was playing. Just, good plays up and down the board. Did have one play or one part of my core that missed the cut that really, really hurt. That was Akshay. I know he was somewhat popular as well, so it hurt a lot of people. But if you want to see the players I'm using most often in my lineups and the guys I'm wagering, go give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a fantastic article called The Fringe. I cannot recommend it enough. It comes out every Sunday. It's a great way to start your week of preparation. And by subscribing to his article, you're going to get his deluxe version that comes out on Wednesday. It comes out early on Wednesday with projected ownerships and his favorite plays and values and wave advantages that he sees. Cannot recommend it enough. I've enjoyed working with him for the past couple of years now, evidenced by the 2025 Picks Challenge between him and I. We're going to keep that going as well. So really, you are missing out if you're not subscribed to his article and follow him over on social media. Go show him some support. Lastly, we are live. Chat's open. In addition to all of the success that you had for the Wyndham, moving forward, what do you think of the St. Jude? Who's your early favorite? Is it Scotty? Is it maybe somebody else? What do you think of the one player that did not decide to play? Are you surprised at who got in or played themselves out of the playoffs? So feel free to jump in and chat with your thoughts and opinions. And if you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 St. Jude. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. We are in Memphis, Tennessee, the home of FedEx. We are at TPC Southwind, a course that has been seen consistently on the PGA Tour in different forms, I guess is the best way to put it. This used to host the WGC St. Jude Invitational. So this course has hosted a WGC. It's hosted a regular event. Now it's part of the playoffs. Nice course here in Memphis. But it is August. It is Memphis, Tennessee. The one thing you can count on, it's going to be hot. Let me center this camera just very, very quickly. As I mentioned, we are in Memphis, Tennessee for TPC Southwind, or at TPC Southwind. This is originally a Ron Pritchard design, so nothing to do with architect in terms of Fantasy National. This was renovated over the winter. Renovation included rebuilding and resurfacing all 18 green complexes, resurfacing tee boxes, upgrading portions of the irrigation system. From what I understand, and Gabe in his article went into a little bit more detail, so definitely want to give credit where that's due. I did know that they were resurfacing and rebuilding all 18 greens. I believe they are trying to recapture some of the square footage of the greens that may have been lost over the years. But Gabe, again, goes into that in a little bit more detail in his article. Green work recaptured square footage. There we go. I should have just read the next bullet like a moron. To allow for additional hole locations while returning the green, while also returning the green surround. So I'm guessing this is like collars and approaches to Xeon Zoysia. Firmer, better draining playing. Zoysia is tricky. It's not seen very often on the PGA Tour. And again, Gabe goes into some courses that have Zoysia, approaches or fairways or anything like that. Course was lengthened by 50 yards. So a little bit longer course now. Area has been very wet. I can attest to this. I am not too close to Memphis, but in terms of geographical location in the United States, I'm in the same region, if you will. It has been very, very wet. We've had a very tumultuous, stormy summer. Excessive rain made the project challenging. 53 inches of rain so far. They only had 56 inches in all of 2024. It's been a very, very stormy, wet summer in our area of the country. Some other notable things about TPC Southwind. This is a traditional par 70, 4 par 3s, 2 par 5s. Fairly long, though, for a par 70 at close to 7,300 yards. So the course is fairly long and will play fairly long, considering it is only a par 70. With that said, there's not been a whole lot of rain leading up to this week. A very, very quick sneak peek at the forecast showed that there was no rain in the forecast for this week. I do think it'll be pretty fast and firm. The greens here at TPC Southwind are Tiff Eagle Bermuda. I believe Gabe went into a note about how these were Champion Bermuda beforehand. And now they are, they used to be Champion Bermuda. And now they are Tiff Eagle Bermuda, according to the GCSAA. So we have quite a few courses on the PGA Tour that have specifically Tiff Eagle Bermuda. Bay Hill, Kapalua, PGA National hosted the Cognizant, what used to be the Honda, Sea Island, RSM. So there's a few courses we'll be able to take a look and see how these players have putt on specifically Tiff Eagle Bermuda. As we talked about, the collars and approaches are this Xeon Zoysia, which can make chipping and pitching a little bit more, or it's different. I don't know if I want to call it difficult. It's different. Fairways are Xeon Zoysia as well. The rough is pure Bermuda, kept at 3 inches in length. We saw this at the Wyndham last week, where the rough doesn't have to be long if it's Bermuda grass, but it can still play difficult depending on the lie you get. It can promote different, promote flyers and things like that. So just because it's not long doesn't mean it's easy to play out of. The specifics regarding TPC Southwind, the greens are small, 4,500 square feet. They used to be smaller before this renovation project over the winter. 4,500 square feet. Average on the PGA Tour is about 6,000, maybe a little less. I just like rounding to a nice whole number. So we're dealing with some small greens here at TPC Southwind. Not a whole lot of fairway. These fairways are 25 yards on average in landing areas. It's very, very narrow a lot of times, and we'll see that when we go through the course breakdown in Fantasy National. Fairways are not easy to hit here. They are not very wide. A lot of rough around TPC Southwind, few trees, some dog legs, pretty interesting design course. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Hopefully you had a very good Wyndham Championship. It's good to see you. I did make sure to give you your due diligence and shout you out for the MLB success that you had. I couldn't remember which night. I believe it was Thursday or Friday. So I made sure to give you your due shout out in the intro, taking down a few of those contests in MLB. Definitely didn't play big though. Yeah, you asked how I did. I actually sent you a message over on social media, but it was a big week. I did not have the Cam Young outright. That's why you don't see the $ and whatnot in the thumbnail. But playing all the Nico Echeverria, I played Mark Hubbard once. That lineup was immaculate because I had Nico, Mark Hubbard, Chris Kirk, Ben Griffin, Aaron Rye. It was a big week. So despite not having the outright, this makes 5 or 6 straight weeks of very, very solid performances. That one lineup top 10'd a big GPP, or at least a GPP. Some people's definition of big might be different, but when you more than 100x your money on an entry, you're doing pretty good. So it was a great week. I cashed 70% of my lineups, or close to 70% of my lineups. I'm on a good streak right now. It'll come crashing down eventually. We're just going to try and delay it as much as possible. Feel pretty good where I'm at right now. Gotta copy your lineups from here on. I had a few stinkers. Don't worry. Like I had one lineup that only had Nico Echeverria make the cut. But in the grand scheme of things, when you cash 70% of your lineups, you're doing pretty well. It was just a great week. It was a great week. So I feel locked in at the moment. So, but it is good to see you in chat. Again, congrats on your success in MLB, and we're going to try and get you on the right foot for the PGA as we start the playoffs. Another interesting thing to note about TPC Southwind, 11 holes with water in play. There is a lot of water around TPC Southwind. This is a very volatile course. It is known to derail a lot of professionals in terms of great rounds over the years. Let's see. I think that's about all we have in terms of TPC Southwind. Some of the smallest greens on tour, as I mentioned, they've actually been restored to 4,500 square feet. They used to be, closer to 4,200. We're on Bermuda greens, specifically Tiff Eagle Bermuda, Bermuda Rough, Zoysia fairways, though. And Gabe goes into a pretty good explanation on Zoysia fairways in his article, so I can't recommend it enough that you go subscribe to that article. Ron Pritchard design, so nothing to do with Architect Filter. There's a look at TPC Southwind in terms of a GCSA tournament fact sheet standpoint. I'm going to go to Fantasy National, and only because I literally just remembered it because I've been pretty excited about my performance today. I will have to say, because I will always admit when I'm wrong, I am up 1-1 on you now, Darnell, with the Victor Perry over Bud Cauley. I know Victor Perry didn't play well over the weekend. I don't even know where he finished, but he at least did make the cut. So I am, unofficially, I guess is the best way to put it, up 1-0 now on you. But I do like the idea of keeping a scorecard of friendly bets starting in 2026. Hey, good evening, Rose. Thanks for jumping in chat. I had Cam Young for the win. Did you have the Cam Young outright? Because if you did, congratulations. That's a really, really nice hit. I was not very high on Cam Young. I had Nico Echeverria outright, which, he was kind of lurking for the first 7 or so holes and then implodes. So if you had the Cam Young outright, Rose, congratulations. We'll make sure to give you your due shout out in the intro tomorrow. Yes, outright. Well, congratulations, Rose. So regardless of what you did DFS-wise, it was probably a profitable week for you. So congratulations on that. Like I said, I didn't have the Cam Young outright, but I did cash 70% of my lineups. So I'm not going to complain about my performance this week for the win. Very good. What were his odds? I'm not asking you how much you put on it because that's a personal thing. But what were his odds? Because I don't remember. Or at least what did you have him at? Because I don't think he was one of the favorites. I know Ben Griffin was 25 when I put up. So big hit, good hit, Rose, good hit, very nice. We come to Fantasy National, and the players in the field for the FedEx St. Jude. And I mentioned in the intro that we have 69 players here. Top 70 qualify to play. There are no open qualifiers. There's no Monday qualifiers. There's no sponsors exemptions. This is the playoffs. Only the top 70 even qualify to make it here. The one player who has not decided to play is Rory. He's sitting number 2 in the FedEx Cup standings, but he has decided not to play this week at the St. Jude. So we have 69 players this week in Memphis. Of course, the who's who of the PGA Tour: Scotty, Xander, Justin Thomas, big name after big name here in Memphis. Just a quick look at who has been playing the best lately. Scotty and Chris Goddard. Hard to ignore Chris Goddard and how well he has played over in the British Isles and then coming back and playing very well at the 3M. Ben Griffin, Tommy, despite him never seemingly winning, has still been playing very, very well as of late with a couple of top 5s and a couple more top 20s. Harry Hall, Henley, and Fitz. Fitz has been playing very, very well lately. So there's a look at your top performers, at least in the last 36 rounds. Mileage can vary, considering Scotty's 36 rounds go all the way back to the Arnold Palmer because he doesn't play that much, whereas somebody like Ben Griffin's 36 rounds goes back to around the Masters. I mean, it's just mileage varies. But, again, just, the who's who of the PGA Tour, or at least who's been playing well this year. And don't worry, when we go to Microsoft Excel, the vision will be skewed, but when we go to Excel, I do have the standings and whatnot ready for us if we want to take a look at some of that stuff. 50-1, very nice. Very good hit there, Rose. Congratulations on a very big week for you then. If you played DFS, I'm assuming you had some Cam Young in your lineups. How was your DFS? But even if you blanked DFS-wise, I can't imagine that you weren't profitable since you hit the outright. Glad to hear glad to hear that you also had success this week. Let's go ahead and jump into the course breakdown here in Fantasy National regarding TPC Southwind. And this is, like I was mentioning when we were going through the course in the GCSAA portion, this course can get to be pretty long. It is only a par 70, and it's almost 7,300 yards. So you've got some difficult holes here, highlighted by the converted par 5. This is a par 5 for amateurs and members of the course and whatnot. For professional play, it's a par 4. 485, plays to almost a quarter of a shot over par. More than a 25% bogey rate. I mean, just a very, very difficult hole. The finish at TPC Southwind is no joke either. A 505 par 4, almost 2/10, a difficult par 4 in the 18th, plays to 1500ths. A lot of big scores can creep up and get on the scorecard quickly if a player is not in great form. Several holes with more than 20% bogey rate, or at least close to 20% bogey rate. 5% double bogey rate. I'm assuming these are a lot of the water holes. Having said that, there are a couple of good scoring opportunities, and then they are the par 5s, obviously. The par 5 on the front plays to about a quarter of a shot under par. Not a whole lot of eagles, as you can see, but just a good scoring opportunity. Rosé also had Mac Miser top 10, so a very, very profitable week for you. So congratulations on your success. In fact, let me scribble this down before I forget to shout Rosé in the intro. So that'll be here next to my computer. I will give you your fair and due diligence tomorrow for the data dive in the intro for your hit. So great week for you. Let's keep the momentum going. Like I said, this is about 5 or 6 straight weeks for me. We're gonna try to keep the momentum. Just missed out on the Ben Griffin top 5. Yeah, I mean I was playing all of the Ben Griffin. He was 80% of my lineups or something high, ridiculous like that. He didn't have the best Saturday. Came back and played well on Sunday. As I was talking about, the par 5s here at TPC Southwind, pretty gettable. Quarter of a shot under par. The par 5 on the back 9 is extremely short, playing 530, plays to a half a shot under par. Several eagles. Best scoring opportunity on the course by far. But those are really about it, because the third easiest hole only plays to a 1/10 of a shot under par. You very, very quickly get to where pars are pretty good scores. Now, having said that, the winners of the St. Jude have reached in the mid-teens past couple of years. And I'm only going back 2 years for my data sample this week because of the current playoff format with the 70 players and whatnot. So you see Hideki last year got to 17. We had a playoff in the playoffs in 2023. Sorry, I meant to hit 2023 with Lucas Glover and Cantley going to a playoff at 15. So even though the course is tough, there are chances to make birdies if players are playing well. We look at let's cover some more, or where a lot of this length is in the course. Feels good to pick a guy to win for the first time. It's I was gonna say, is that your first outright? But no, you meant Cam Young in his inaugural win on the PGA Tour. I mean, 7 runner-ups. You had to think that it was going to happen eventually. Guy had a lot of talent, but having put himself there so many times, kind of like Tommy Fleetwood, you wonder if it's really going to happen. Well, finally for Cam Young, it has. So, it feels good to pick a first time winner for sure. Cam was your only outright play. Well, that's a very that's really good, because I will fully admit that I I give myself a lot of coverage. I think I had 6 outrights for the Wyndham. So, I will still take credit for when I hit an outright because it's only 6 out of 150 players. But to only put in one, to be very, very sold on Cam Young says a lot about the conviction you had, and it was the correct call this week. So, congratulations, Rose. A lot of the length here at TPC Southwind comes into these long, difficult par 4s. 485, we talked about, 482, 465, 472, 505. Lots of long, pretty difficult par 4s. The par 3s, they're difficult, but they're not necessarily long. Par 3 205 is the longest here at TPC Southwind. It is one of the harder holes on the course, but you have a 162, you have a 171 that actually played slightly under par, and a 196. So the par 3s aren't overly long. The par 5s aren't overly long. It is a lot of long, difficult par 4s, which lends TPC Southwind to be one of the more difficult challenges on the PGA Tour. Good evening, Joanne. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Sounds like you had some success as well. Had Koivu and Chris Kirk top 10, so congratulations on your success. So I need to write that down as well. So Joanne top 10s. Top 10 on Meisner for Rosé. But Joanne, congratulations on your success. Started the first term of the year the same way, but didn't finish. Yeah, and I will tip my cap to you, Joanne, as well. I was nowhere near Hideki. I didn't want anything to do with Hideki. Hideki ended up finishing top 20, so you were clearly seeing something there, Joanne, that I either wasn't ready to get to. So I know you were pretty high on Hideki, whether you used him in your DFS lineups or whatnot. But sounds like you had at least a good week. I'm going to assume a profitable week if you had a couple top 10s and had some success in DFS. So congratulations on your success as well. I love it. I love hearing that a lot of the members of the community are having a lot of success lately. Hopefully coinciding with mine as well, considering I've had a lot of success lately, and today and this week being no different, cashing 70% of my lineups, including having a top 10 in a GPP. When you 100x your money on one entry, it's going to be a good week. Not to mention the fact that I just cashed a bunch. So it was a great week. We're going to try to keep it rolling. But yes, very nice work, Joanne. And congratulations on your week as well. Now we'll move to some more intense data metrics in terms of TPC Southwind here. Your strokes gained by shot type, not to be expected. If a tournament is pretty difficult, you're going to have to be pretty solid with your irons. Players that are finishing higher generally putting well. Interesting to see that off the tee is more than around the green, but not as much as I would have thought in a course like this. We move to our top 5s. A lot of the same type of stuff here, same distribution. And then for your winners, it's a lot of the same. A lot of heavy approach play. Sure, you're putting well, but this off the tee really does start to rise as you move up the leaderboard. So interesting to note that. Don't know how much data we'll have to go into for the data dive show tomorrow, since we're only going back, or at least I'm going only back 2 years. So based on this, we're probably going to want to have some off the tee, but I don't think distance is a big factor. And I'll show you why here in a moment. Average strokes gained by hole by par. Yeah, there's only 2 par 5s here around TPC Southwind. So I mentioned this for the Wyndham, and how the Wyndham, even though there were only 2 par 5s, the par 5 still had a whole lot of importance when we went through this last Sunday night. This is what I would more expect for a par 70, a traditional par 70. The par 5s kind of lag, and then you have your 3s and 4s very, very similar and close to the par 5s. We go to our top 5s. It's basically dead even. And then for your winners, yeah, the par fives kind of creep up again. I would imagine that's probably a few eagles maybe here. But par fours are going to carry a lot of weight this week, considering we're dealing with another par 70 with 12 par fours. So more par four importance this week at TBC Southwind. We look at hole composition. The par threes, pretty evenly split. We do have 2 short par threes, 1 mid-length and 1 long, but we don't have any extremely long par threes. The longest par three, at least on the scorecard, 205. 205. So not a whole lot here in terms of long par threes, and we'll see tomorrow when we go through some prior leaderboards. I might try to get something together for the like digging into TBC Southwind and a data dive, since like I normally do, but with it being a small field, I generally don't. I'll see what I can come up with tomorrow, but I don't know how much par threes are really going to matter, because I'm going to go into these par fours. There is one shorter par four. It is not drivable, but it is a shorter par four. Looking at Hovland this week so far, interesting. We'll go into some of the players here momentarily. We're just trying to still get a feel for the course. And it's also difficult because I'm only going back 2 years with the current format of the playoffs. So I don't hate that off the top of my head. I would be interested to see what his putting is like on Bermuda. And then, even though we didn't have a whole lot in terms of around the green, I'll skip ahead a little bit. These greens are really hard to hit. They're small. There's water protecting a lot of them. I worry about Hovland because people are going to miss greens here. It's a fact of life. It's not necessarily a major, but it plays a lot like it in the sense that greens are just going to get missed, and players are going to have to rely on their short game to keep in contention. Now, Lucas Glover 2 years ago was just lights out with the irons. But you see, he even putt and was around the green pretty good, or doing it pretty well 2 years ago. And then last year, Hideki doesn't get enough credit for being one of the best short game, like chippers and pitchers of the golf ball. And he was really bad that week. He just put the daylights out last year. So that's my one concern with Victor in terms of my first thought process. Yes, he finished second here last year, so he clearly has familiarity with the course and has played well here. So that would be my one concern, 3 days before the tournament even, starts, Joanne. But I don't hate it considering how well he's been hitting his irons lately. Joanne, my girlfriend, likes Victor this week also. Well, maybe it's a Joanne thing. I don't know. But coming back to this whole composition, we do have one short par 4 not drivable, but the majority of our par 4s fall in the 400 range. We have 4 from 400 to 450, 6 from 450 to 5. So again, it'll be interesting to see if I can get some of the data dive together, what this looks like here. And then we do have the very long, difficult 505 par 4 as well. And then the 2 par 5s evenly split on the side of 550, one under 550, one over 550. Approach shots, majority of them come from 150 to 175. We do have also a pretty good plethora coming from 175 to 200, especially against the PGA Tour average. Despite the length of the course and some of these longer par 4s, there are some dog legs here at TBC Southwind. So players just aren't mashing driver every single par 4. There is some strategy and or the old Saturday Night Live, some strategery around here that you might use some 3-woods or even irons off tees, especially because the fairway or the rough's not easy to play out of here. So interesting. We might take a look at some players that have been good from 150 to 200 tonight in terms of or proximity. Historic cut line, we don't have to worry about that this week. All 69 players will make the cut, but just shows how difficult TBC Southwind has been in years past. You know, in the mid-teens, it was +3, +2. Now in 2022, it got all the way down to -1, but it's generally pretty tough. At least average, if not difficult. We'll see that it was a little bit different past couple of years because the best players, or at least the top 70 players, have been playing it. So these guys have been in form coming to TBC Southwind. Scoring distribution, 17% birdies, 16% bogeys, lots of pars around here, quite a few doubles. Kind of lends itself to being average and the more difficult end of average, especially because driving accuracy, not easy to hit fairways here, not easy to hit greens here. The one saving grace from what I was talking about with Victor Hovland, scrambling does seem to be slightly easier than the PGA Tour average here. So perhaps the around the green game isn't as difficult as some other places. But I still stand by my thought process that the short game is going to be needed this week, considering how few greens get hit here. And generally speaking, Victor Hovland's not the best around the green. 3 putts per round, much lower than the average tour event. These are very small greens. Average driving distance, yeah, it is slightly higher than the average tour event, but there are some forced layups, dog legs and whatnot. I believe players will hit driver when they feel it's necessary or they can take advantage, a la Rory. Some players will do the Ben Griffin style and just hit irons and 3-woods off of tees like he did for the majority of the Wyndham. And then proximity, much closer to the hole. Again, these are small greens. So there's a look at TBC Southwind in terms of a scorecard and graphical view. We'll go to the players in the field this week. I'm not going to be really using any filters. In fact, before I do that, let's go ahead and look at the historic conditions and take a look and see how TBC Southwind has played, particularly the past 2 years. That's really all I'm interested in. So if I can highlight those two, that's really all I'm interested in. We had 2023 was easy all 4 rounds. I'm not sure if I really agree with that, considering the winning score only got to 15 under. But you didn't have very many players that were over par, so I guess that could make some sense. But you can see, like, the winning scores kind of get suppressed a little bit. The course I wouldn't call this easy by any means, but Fantasy National classified all 4 rounds as easy 2 years ago. Then you had 2 rounds of average and 2 rounds of easy last year for Hideki's win. Rough length has always been average, which makes sense. We saw that at the Wyndham when players were in the rough. The rough doesn't have to be long for players to struggle to play out of it. So they don't need necessarily the longest rough here. Typically fast greens. You had 1 round of lightning. Generally calm winds, and that's what at least a very, very quick sneak peek at the forecast also saw earlier today. Let's look at the historic conditions. I don't really feel great about using any filters. We obviously don't have an architect filter. This is a Ron Pritchard design. I'm not going to look at calm winds, at least this early on. This isn't a short course by any means. And while it's not, I wouldn't classify this as easy at all. It's not going to play difficult because the players are, in form. Hence why they're in the top 70 of the PGA Tour standings. So we're just going to take a look at some metrics here in terms of a wide view. Just kind of some basic views here to get our start this week. Your top off the tee players. In fact, let's narrow this in just a little bit more. Your top off the tee players the last 24 rounds at the St. Jude this week: Chris Gotterup, Aldrich Potgieter, Scotty, Kevin Yu, Jake Knapp, Daniel Berger, Ryan Gerard, Ben Griffin, Corey Connors, and Kurt Kitayama. I do not think the Wyndham is in here yet. It is not. So this might change a little bit for the players who played at the Wyndham. But there's your top off the tee performers. We are definitely going to have a lot of emphasis in iron play. We saw that, all throughout the breakdown here. Your top iron players last 24 rounds: Scotty, Kurt Kitayama, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry, Akshay, Sepp Straka. I imagine this is going to change because he was not good at the Wyndham. Sepp Straka, Emiliano Grillo, Ben Griffin, Berger, and Brian Campbell. I do want to look at around the green. I do think it's going to have some amount of factor. Keegan, Sungjae, J-Day, Russell Henley, Scotty, Sam Stevens, Fleetwood, Hideki, Chris Goddard, and Wyndham Clark. Just out of curiosity, Victor Hovland, he's not last. I'll give him that. Last 24 rounds, Victor is very much more middle of the pack. 29th. So, okay. All right. Obviously, the irons have been immaculate lately. The thing is, I talked about this with the U.S. Open. Like, Joanne, like I said, the only concern, at the U.S. Open, he more than doubled his previous career high. It was a great week. I'm taking nothing away from Victor Hovland in that regard, but I wouldn't bet on this being a new skill set for him. And of course, we don't get the metrics for the Scottish or the Open. So, no denying that the irons are heavily in play. He'll probably rate out pretty well for me, considering how much iron emphasis I generally have in my mixed condition models. The one concern would be I am going to have some around the green focus this week, or at least going to factor it in a little bit. He could struggle with that. Bermuda is also not his best surface. He much prefers bent. So just a couple of things there, but at least in terms of big picture view, like irons, yeah, I do like the fit here for Hovland. He finished second last year and top 15 the year before, so he's got some great course history as well, Joanne. So that's probably not the worst shout in the world. The more I'm looking at it, the more I like that, to be honest. And then we looked at around the green. We'll look at some putting. We'll increase the time frame. We're going to look at fast Bermuda. Sorry, just as we did for the Wyndham. I'm going to look at all rounds, just make sure enough statistics it's a big enough sample to make the statistics significant. Your top putters on fast Bermuda: Jacob Bridgman, Denny McCarthy, Scotty. Top 3 or top 2 in putting on fast Bermuda: Sam Burns, Max Grazerman, Patrick Rogers, Nico Echeverria, Mackenzie Hughes, Harris English, and Russell Henley. One thing I definitely want to do, and I'm going to increase the time frame, is we know that these are champion Bermuda, or excuse me, a TIFF Eagle Bermuda. So let's take a look at TIFF Eagle Bermuda in general. We're going to look at Bay Hill. We're going to look at the Plantation course at Kapalua. Not the best comparison because those are always very slow, but they are still TIFF Eagle Bermuda. PGA National. I'm going to have to click both of these because I'm not sure which one's which. And Sea Island. There is Port Royal. I'll click it, but we don't get any putting statistics there because that is the host of the Bermuda Championship, I believe. Or maybe it's the Puerto Rico. It's one of those two. We don't get putting statistics for them or for that tournament or either tournament. And then Sea Island, the RSM. Let's sort on those courses. So this is specifically TIFF Eagle Bermuda, which is what the GCSA listed these greens as. Your top putters on TIFF Eagle Bermuda: Sam Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ben Griffin, Jacob Bridgman, Jordan Spieth, Joe Highsmith, Nico Echeverria, Andrew Novak, Ludwig, and J-Day. Some players who have not putt well here or on this surface. Lucas Glover, despite him winning a few years ago, worst in the field. Sam Stevens, Aaron Rai, Poston, Pendrith, Harmon. Tommy has not putt well on this surface. This specific subset of Bermuda, if you will. Griot, Siwoo, Kevin Yu, Bobby Mack. There's a look at some of the players who have not putt well on this specific surface. Let's go into, let's do proximity. We'll look at, I'm going to sort on total procs. I am going to look at 36 rounds. But we're mostly focused on these two ranges here. Based on this breakdown. 150 to 175, 175 to 200. So, these two ranges. So, no surprise, Scotty, second and third. Morikawa to a lesser extent. Hideki, fourth and fifth. Victor, so again, good shout, Joanne, first and fourth. Some other notable names that are pretty good in both. Shane Lowry, Patrick Cantlay, Matty Schmid maybe, 4th and 20th, pretty solid. That's really about it in terms of being good at both of these links that seem to matter here at TBC Southwind. Definitely don't want to ignore the par 4s even in terms of an initial research show, so we'll sort on par 4s, but again, we're looking at the 400 to 500 range. So Scotty, Chris Goddard, Sam Burns, 10th and 1st. Honorable mentions here to Jake Knapp and Hideki and Cantlay. Honorable mention probably to Connors, to Tommy Fleetwood, absolutely, 2nd and 16th. Honorable mention. But really, these three up top being top 10 in both of the links. Scotty, Goddard, Burns, top 10 in both of the links of par 4s. Normally, I would go to the tournament history or strokes gained total tab. We're not able to do that for the St. Jude because it is trying to pull it in from when it was a WGC. And this isn't a WGC. We can look and see who played well when it was a WGC. Justin Thomas won here a couple times. Hideki won here historically. Daniel Berger's won here historically. But instead, we'll go to Microsoft Excel and I'll bring up, my early look file. These are the standings. So Scotty's number 1. Berger is the cutoff right now for Eastlake. He's 30th. Gerard 31st, etc., etc. Rory's highlighted in red because he's not playing this week. But what we can do, we'll take a look at who's played well in the 2 years. So you've only got 2 is the maximum number here. In the 2 years of the current format of the FedEx Cup playoffs, who's played well here at TBC Southwind? Patrick Cantlay, average to 7th place finish. He's done pretty well here. Again, to your point, Joanne, Victor, he's putt well here. The irons are nuclear here, so makes a lot of sense. Look at Hideki. Hideki's not a good putter, and he's putt extremely well here. So maybe somebody to think about. Of course, irons have been good as well. Tommy's played decent in 2 tries. Xander's played decent in 2 tries. Morikawa, he's been pretty good around the green here, but his irons have been very shaky around TBC Southwind, so just interesting to note. Scotty's been okay. Henley, Rose. So, of the players who have played it both years, Cantlay, Victor, Hideki, Tommy, Xander, Morikawa, Scotty, Henley, Rose. If we come down here, So here are all your debutantes, or guys who have not played in the FedEx Cup playoffs: Pot Guider, Novak, Brian Campbell, Bud Cauley, etc. Guys who have played here both years of the current format and didn't play well: Sepp Straka, been horrible short game wise here both years. Mackenzie Hughes has been really bad here. I mean, just seemingly spraying it everywhere off the tee. I mean, this is a typical Mackenzie Hughes type profile. Really bad ball striking and really good short game. So, typical Mackenzie Hughes there. Harris English hasn't been good here. Granted, he was dealing with some injuries. So, maybe give him a little bit of a pass. Thomas Dietrich's not been good either year. Keegan's not been good either year here at TBC Southwind. Cam Young, Tom Hoagie, not very good here in both tries. Nick Taylor's not been good in 2 tries here. Fitz and Rogers. Finau and Harmon. Finau and Harmon. Finau can't seem to make a putt anywhere right now, let alone here at TBC Southwind. Harmon hasn't been good. So there's a look at some of the players who have and have not played well at TBC Southwind in the 2 years of the current format. Looks like my stream is starting to lag a little bit. Hopefully you all were able to see all of that in Microsoft Excel. I'll bring us back to the player page view in Fantasy National. That's going to be it for the initial research show this evening. Thanks for all the support. Thanks to Darnell, Rose, and Joanne for jumping to chat. Again, congratulations to Rose and Joanne for your success at the Wyndham. I'm very, very happy to hear it. I'll make sure to give you all your due diligence and due shout out in tomorrow night's intro. But thanks to you all for jumping into the chat. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. And sounds like there's been a lot of success lately here on the channel. I myself have had about a month to a month and a half of great success. It's going to fall apart here soon. I'm just going to try and delay that as much as possible. Pay, thanks for jumping in the chat right at the end of the show. Very much appreciated. You just missed out on some of that stuff, so you can check out the show when I wrap it up here momentarily. But hopefully you had some success. Thanks for jumping in the chat right at the end there. So thanks again for all the support, for all of the wagers you made this past week for the Wyndham Championship, for all the DFS contests you played this past week for the Wyndham Championship. And until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.